Welcome back guys to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to look at how we can make color gradients so easy and so much fun. Let's get right into it. Alright, so in Adobe Premiere Pro, that's the software we're going to be using throughout. I have these shots over here, okay? 4 of them that have similarities in its composure, right? It was shot in the same space, same background, same props, but in different angles. So let us start with the simplest to the hardest, if I should say. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, as I've laid everything down here in my sequence, I'm going to create an adjustment layer, okay, and I'm going to pull it all the way to the right so it covers every one of the shots, the 4 shots over here that we have. Okay, so the reason being that we're going to use the same LUT for all these shots, and because they were shot in the same spot, same setting, and the same lighting, it's gonna work seamlessly, or for the most part it's gonna be easy to match them all. All right, so let's just get into it. All right, so the first shot, which is an extreme close-up of the face of the model, you're gonna find a hero shot. So let's see, maybe my hero shot is this one. Okay, cool. So I think I like this particular area in this footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a LUT that I've prepared that's down in the description below. So if you love the look in the end and the process that we're going to undertake, you can go down there and download it in the description below. So it's called the Burnt Amber Cinematic LUT, and it contains 3 LUTs, so you can try them all and find which one works best for you. But in this particular tutorial, you're going to learn how we can tweak it and make it work in almost every situation, especially for the case of what we have set before us. All right, so with the adjustment layer selected, the first one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the color tab. It's going to open Lumetri color for me. So in creative, I'm going to click on browse, and I'm going to locate where I've saved the Burnt Amber Cinematic LUT. So I'm going to scroll down. Okay, Burnt Amber LUT. All right, so I'm going to use the Burnt Amber 1, and readily it looks decent across all the shots. But what you notice over here is that it makes everything turn into the skin tone that we want to pick for the shots. But we don't want it to necessarily affect the green in the background, which initially was green, but now it has turned into what I say dirty green, which isn't what we are gonna settle for. Of course not. Same also applies to this particular part, which we can't also use. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna tweak the shot to make it look decent. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, for safety reasons, recreate another adjustment layer by dragging and duplicating it up top. So with this adjustment layer in the middle, I'm going to alter my temperature a little bit, okay, so that I don't touch the full intensity of the Burnt Amber LUT on this adjustment layer. Okay, so still on the second adjustment layer in the middle, I'm going to do a bit of color correcting. Okay, so I'm going to push the contrast a little bit to the right, just like so. I'm going to look at the other shots and see if it works. Otherwise, we are going to have to be cutting them so that we can separately work on the second adjustment layer accordingly. Okay, but I think for the most part, it looks decent for everything. And this is the skin tone you're going to settle for, and you're going to try to separate the skin tone from the environment as much as we can. Okay, so let's begin with the first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the footage itself, and I'm going to increase my whites a little bit so I can bring more attention to the skin and separate her some more. Right, so I feel like there's too much contrast in there, so I'm going to reduce the contrast. Okay, and I'm going to push the temperature all the way to the left just a bit, and now I think my highlights are too much. I'm gonna increase my contrast just a bit more, and my shadows are gonna be cut in like this. Okay, I think quite okay so far what we have. All right, now we're gonna bring in some vibrance into the skin so it separates her a little bit more from the background, even though the color of the skin is quite similar to what we have in the background. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the selective color tool or the eyedropper tool to select the skin area, and I'm going to increase the saturation. You see that it also affects the background, but now there's a lot more warmth in here than what we had before. All right, so let's check before, after, before, after. I think you're doing good so far. And with the hue, I'm going to select the skin area, especially in the midtones, so that we can pick a big area of the skin. And you notice that if I send it downwards, we are adding greens into the skin, which naturally isn't so. So I'm going to push it a little bit up like that to introduce some bit of magenta into the skin. I think it's too much. Maybe slightly like that. Okay, cool. All right. So we have this before and after, before and after. And I think you're on a great start. All right, maybe you might find this to be having too much contrast, and you can reduce the contrast as you please. So it's just a matter of creative choice. All right, so let's move on to the next shot, which is this particular shot. It's also quite similar to the shot, just then the model's looking into the right direction and the light was being shown from the right side of the camera towards her like that. And this particular shot is going to have much more work done because here you notice that we have the green in the background. Okay, so the green prop where the lamp is sitting, we are going to have to bring out the green in it. All right, so let's turn the LUT back on and we're going to work individually on the footage itself. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to push my temperature to my left so I can reduce the warmth that's found over here in the green. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some contrast just a bit, increase my highlights so I can throw more light into the face of the model, and increase the whites just a tiny bit like that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to scroll downwards and I'm going to use the hue versus saturation, select mid-tone area of the skin and increase the saturation of the model. Okay, so I find that the skin area has too much warmth in there. I'm not going to, use the temperature. Generally, that's what I may go to use to fix it, but this time I'm going to rather select the skin tone and change the hue from the orange look it has to a bit more magenta. Okay, just like so, not too much. Let's say somewhere over here. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to my color correcting and I'm going to bring in shadows like that and increase the contrast, okay, then the highlights a little bit. Okay, then I'm gonna go down here to the hue versus hue once more and I'm going to select the green area in here. Okay, so you notice that I select a huge portion of the green and the yellows in there, and that's what I'm going to use to tweak that green over there in the background. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this downward and you notice that my green is showing a little bit more. So if you check before and after, you notice that the green in there is coming out some more. So I'm going to select the green area some more again and increase it this way. And I'm going to go up again. And with the help of the temperature, I'm going to reduce the intensity of the warmth overall in the shot. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to go back to the hue versus saturation, the skin, and bring the skin out some more. Okay, I'm gonna go down, increase the green in there, and equally because the greens are there in the dark, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Luma, hit on the green and increase its intensity so that it stands out some more. All right, then we're gonna go up here into the shadow, tint and highlighting. So you notice that there's a plethora of options that you can choose from. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce some reds in there into the highlights and some blues over here into the shadow areas. Okay, so that's going to give me some bit of split toning, and I'm gonna send the shadows all the way this way and reduce the contrast. Then bring in some bit of warmth, and like so, increase the vibrance just a bit. Okay, so what you notice is that the skin stands out a lot more in here in the shot, and it is going to require a lot of going through over and over again until you get the preferred look that you're gonna choose for your shot. Okay, so with this quick demonstration done, let us move on to the next shot. And what I'm going to do over here is that I am going to tackle the green area over here, okay, and make sure it stands out and not touch too much of the skin tone. But of course, we cannot touch the whole shot without affecting the skin tone, so of course you definitely have to deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my temperature all the way to the left, just like so. I'm going to increase the contrast just a bit, and I'll move downwards, select hue and saturation, select the skin tone area like I did before, and increase the vibrance up above just a bit like so. Okay, and let's look at how the shot looks like. Okay, so what I notice is I have too much contrast in there in the shot, so I'm going to open up the shadows by sending the shadows to the right. Okay, now it's opened up some more. I'm gonna go back in here into the hue versus saturation, still having the footage itself highlighted. I'm gonna increase the browns in there in the shot like so, and with the hue versus hue, I'm going to select the skin tone area and introduce a little bit of magenta, just like so, not too much. Okay, if you notice that your saturation is a little bit too much, you can either use saturation, which is going to be very drastic, or you can use vibrance, which is a bit more gradual, just like so. Okay, and with my shadow tint and highlight tint, I'm going to introduce some warmth, of course, towards the yellow area into the shot, and you notice how transformed our shot looks. So over here, lumetri color, notice before and after, you've been able to separate the skin area from the background. Okay, so to further do that and make it look even much more separated, you're going to of course have to tackle our green area. Okay, so with the help of the selective tool, I'm going to select the green area, and once I have that selected or determined by the software, I'm going to send this downwards just a bit. Okay, and manually select the greens in the area and make sure that my greens are coming out some more, not too much. Okay, just a little bit this way so it looks much more natural. Okay, and I'm gonna go back in here and reduce my contrast, and you notice that there's too much highlights in here in the face, so I'm going to reduce it slightly but bring in the shadows and make it stronger. And I think basically this grade is quite done. Okay, so if you find out that there's too much contrast in the shot, it is because of probably your lighting or probably how much you've boosted the contrast, so you can always tweak it as you please. All right, and you've noticed that this has all been done with just one LUT, which I have a link to where you can download it down the description below once more, so go check it out if you wish. Okay, so if you look at this last shot, what we're going to do is going to be very quick. We're going to select the properties over here, copy them and dump them into this shot. Okay, so let's scroll down the way to the lumetri color that we just did. Going to select the lumetri color, copy, and we're going to paste it right over here, and readily it looks so good. Our green is separated, the skin tone is equally separated, but what I find is that the skin tone is too vibrant and unrealistic, so I'm going to reduce the hue versus saturation just a bit. Yeah, just like so, so that we look a little bit more real. And with the help of the highlights, I'm going to increase just a bit and bring in the shadows, not too much, just like so, and tackle the temperature just a little bit more. So it gives that overall look to the environment. Okay, so the environment looks a lot more real. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a little bit more warmth into the skin tone area, and that's going to be done with the use of just this hue versus saturation. I'm increasing it just a little bit, and with the shadow areas, I'm going to push it just a bit to the violet side of the shadow tint wheel, and I think we are good so far. So let's look at before and after of this shot. So this is before with just the look of the LUT, and this is after with the look of the LUT. So how about we select the properties over here and go back to this particular shot where we have created a look, but I want us to see how it's going to look with the properties that we just lifted from this particular shot. So let's just dump them here and see how it looks. All right, so you notice that it's very different, and that's because the lighting settings or the position of the lights were very different, very different. But you can always tweak this by altering what you see apparent as the issue. So you notice that the skin tone is too warm, so what of course we're going to do is we're going to reduce the warmth in there by altering the temperature towards the left, and of course target the skin tone area itself by first of all reducing how much highlight we have in the skin. Okay, don't do that too much, otherwise you notice that your face looks horrible. So the face of the model will look horrible if you do that too much, so we are not going to do that too much. But with the hue versus hue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it slightly upwards so the skin has a bit more magenta into it, and reduce the saturation so that it becomes true to the eye. All right, so just like so, and I think this looks a lot better than before. All right, so we have these shots graded with just one LUT, and I can say that I am quite happy about this LUT that I've created. And I think that once you try it out, you're also going to really enjoy the process just like I have in this tutorial. So thank you very much for watching this video to the very end. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and turn on the post notification button because it helps me a lot. Anytime I upload a video, you'll be the first to be notified. And until the next video, have a wonderful day. See ya.